In early January 2026, the United States carried out a dramatic military raid in Venezuela that captured President Nicolás Maduro and transported him to the U.S. to face federal charges. The operation shocked the world, triggered international condemnation, and raised big questions about U.S. power, international law, and global stability. Today we break down what happened, why it matters, and the geopolitical ripples spreading far beyond Latin America. On January 3, 2026, a U.S. military operation, backed by months of preparation, struck deep inside Venezuela's capital, Caracas. Elite forces captured Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, in a swift night raid. The pair were flown to New York and now face federal charges, including narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. The U.S. administration framed the operation legally as law enforcement, not open warfare, a distinction it says allows it to justify the mission under domestic authorities. Yet the scale and secrecy of the action mirrors a direct intervention in another sovereign nation, a precedent few global powers have attempted in recent decades. President Donald Trump publicly defended the mission as part of a broader fight against drug cartels, dictatorship, and threats to U.S. national security. The administration highlights Maduro's alleged ties to drug trafficking networks that send narcotics north into the United States, characterizing him as one of the world's most prolific narco-traffickers. Trump even went further, saying the U.S. would temporarily run Venezuela to stabilize the country and oversee transition efforts, with an eye on its vast oil reserves. This marked an unprecedented shift from his earlier rhetorical opposition to foreign entanglements. At an emergency UN Security Council session, numerous countries, including China, Russia, Cuba, Brazil, and South Africa, labeled the U.S. military raid a violation of international law and Venezuelan sovereignty. Critics argue the mission undermines a rules-based international order by using force absent self-defense claims or UN authorization. China expressed that the attack was deeply shocking and cast Washington as a global bully, even though analysts in Beijing view the shift as an opportunity to strengthen China's own narrative and influence. Some Chinese social media users provocatively suggested the raid might inspire similar ideas regarding Taiwan, though official Chinese policy remains focused on existing strategies. The operation revived fears across Latin America of renewed U.S. interventionism, with critics warning that neighbors could face pressure or even future military actions. At the same time, some Venezuelans welcome Maduro's removal after decades of authoritarian rule, underlining the complex domestic implications. Legal experts and commentators widely debate the raid's legitimacy. On one hand, the U.S. portrays it as law enforcement targeting criminal enterprise. On the other, jurists argue that using military force in another state without a UN mandate or clear self-defense rationale undermines fundamental international law norms. This tension highlights a broader truth. While international law exists to constrain aggression, powerful states often act where they calculate norms can be bent or reinterpreted, especially when political and economic stakes are high. The Venezuelan operation has been described as a dramatic departure from the post-Cold War foreign policy framework dominated by diplomacy and multilateral action. Instead, it evokes older models of raw power politics, where military might and strategic self-interest dictate outcomes. Some analysts even label this shift a new form of American influence doctrine, akin to a modern Monroe Doctrine, but with control enforced by force. The operation may embolden or reshape geopolitical strategies from Beijing to Moscow and beyond, as great powers reassess how force and sovereignty interact in the 21st century. The U.S. raid in Venezuela, the capture of Nicolás Maduro, and President Trump's bold foreign policy moves have ignited intense global debate. Supporters argue it's a decisive blow against criminal networks and authoritarianism, while critics warn that the precedent endangers international stability. What happens next? Whether expanded U.S. influence in the region or retaliatory actions by rival powers, will profoundly shape global politics in 2026 and beyond.